Shift now to Massachusetts, where we've been following this story pretty much it's hard to believe that it's been 6 weeks, but we're talking about the Karen Reed murder trial. Yes. This is a live look from the witness stand. Judson Welcher,
yes,
who could be the prosecution's final witness, is called to the stand. He will continue his testimony today. Welcher, an accident reconstruction expert with the Texas-based firm Aperture, testified yesterday about some interesting techniques that were used to recreate the crime scene. Let's take a listen in to his testimony.
With the numbers we talked about of 15.7 for the M and 458 for the G, to come up with 7,200. Was that anywhere on your slide presentation?
So the slide presentation showed the 458 Gs. The rest of it was not on there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You also indicated that the laceration above Mr. O'Keefe's right eye is consistent with the shape and height of the fin on the top of the Lexus SUV. Do you recall that?
Correct. It's actually properly called a spoiler.
And so you would call it a spoiler instead of a fin?
Correct.
Fair enough. We'll call it a spoiler. You visited the scene at 34 Fairview, correct?
I did.
You stated that you like to visit the scene while you're working as an accident reconstructionist so you can get a better understanding of the data?
I would use the word like, but we want to go to the scene to see the scene.
When you visited 34 Fairview, did you go into the garage at 34 Fairview?
No. I actually didn't set foot on the property.
You didn't set foot on the property?
No, I stayed in the street. It's my understanding there were new owners.
Did you consider the scene limited to the road?
So the access I had was to the road. The laser scanners and the photographs will extend further, but I didn't have access to the interior of the house.
Oh, so you didn't access the entire scene, correct?
In my opinion, I did access the entire scene. I didn't physically step 7 feet onto the grass to the point of rest, but I stood and photographed where that was. I didn't want to trespass.
Where did you understand the body of Mr. O'Keefe was located?
I know it was 7 feet in from the grass. I've seen cruiser cameras showing people around a body. It's slightly north and slightly south and a little bit west of the flagpole.
But you didn't access that part of the scene that you just described, correct?
I absolutely did. I took photographs of it. I didn't trespass and stand at that exact location, but I stood right there. We scanned the whole thing. The scanner uses a laser beam that goes out, 150, 200, 300 feet. So we scanned all that stuff.
Did your scan topography?
Yes.
Then you know that there is a berm raised above street level, correct, if you did the scan?
Correct.
Do you know the height of that berm?
I believe it's 4 inches.
Nowhere in your report, when you're comparing the height of Mr. O'Keefe to the spoiler, do you account for that 4 inches of the berm, do you?
So yes and no. As I indicated, we don't know exactly where the point of impact is, whether he was completely in the road or up on the berm. But for example, where the tire spins on the Lexus, that could be where she's driving up on the curb. And so then that tire will be at the height of the curb. So if he's standing on the higher part and the right rear tire of the Lexus goes up there and spins, then that would be at the same height. We don't know the exact point of impact. So I don't know whether he was on the road or in the street. Excuse me, on the street or on the side of the road.
Exactly, but when you did your depiction on your slide, and you remember you had the ruler and you measured the height? You did all that?
Yep.
Where was it? It was you? Was it you in that slide?
It was.
Where were your feet?
On the ground.
Not on the berm, correct?
Correct.
Okay, So you chose a measurement, which was the ground, to the top toward the spoiler, and you took a measurement. And you said that that approximates the height of Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Of the laceration of Mr. O'Keefe.
Exactly, because what you were doing was you were trying to determine and present testimony on whether or not that laceration could be caused by the spoiler, and to do so you had to take measurements, correct?
Correct.
So, you chose to place Mr. O'Keefe in your simulation on the ground. You didn't choose to put him on a berm that would be 4 inches higher, did you?
Nor did I put the Lexus 4 inches higher. I didn't do
Correct.
either one of those.
So the point is, it's certainly possible that if there's 4 to 5 more inches, that would take that eye out of the ability to be hit by the spoiler. Isn't that correct?
No, because if it's 4 to 5 inches higher and he leans his head down or reacts to it, again, we don't know the exact position of his head.
Did you, in your slide yesterday, describe the possibility that his head could be down? As I understand it, you're positioned in that photo just like this. You're not positioned like that in any photo you presented to the jury, were you?
I'm trying to make it clear. We don't know his exact body position at the point of impact, nor do we know the exact position on the ground. So, which is part of the reason why I haven't tried to exactly simulate this, because we don't have enough parameters to do that. So I don't have that information. I'm showing the geometry relative to someone of Mr. O'Keefe's height.
So you don't have the information to do that properly, so therefore you can't conclude that he had a laceration to the eye from the spoiler by your own answer that you just gave, correct?
So it was done properly. We don't have absolute information to say where exactly he was. I'm pointing out that the physical evidence, the height, matches the height of the laceration. That is one data point of many data points.
So you would have to at least concede that the level of his eye could be non-contacting that fin or spoiler, because you don't have information as you just described.
Sure, it could be from contacting the ground.
Pardon me?
It could be from contacting the ground. It could be from other things.
But you don't have the information necessary to conclude with any certainty that Mr. O'Keefe, at the time of impact, had a level of his head in an upright such that it hit that spoiler. You don't have that information, correct?
We don't have that level of certainty. We have that the height and geometry matches.
And you didn't take into consideration the berm, and you didn't mention the berm at all when you were discussing this measurement with the jury yesterday, correct?
That is not correct. You asked me two questions. I absolutely considered the berm. And the second question when I presented it to the jury, I mentioned the berm when we showed the picture of the shoe in the snow, but that was it.
That's my question. I'll ask it a different way. When we were talking not about finding a shoe in the snow, and you mentioned a berm, I'm talking about when you did the measurement of whether or not the laceration could be caused by the spoiler. You didn't mention accounting for berm height when you discussed that measurement with the jury, did you?
That is correct.
Likewise, you didn't present any Newton's second law analysis regarding the front of Mr. O'Keefe's head with respect to whether his head was contacted by that spoiler, did you?
Correct. Again, it was a glancing hit. We wouldn't be able to do that.
Oh, so it's a glancing hit to the front of the head is your hypothesis?
This whole pedestrian impact is a glancing hit.
So you can have your arm to the side like this, with the back of the vehicle coming like this, and you could glance the right eye with the arm out. Is that what you're saying?
That's what my picture shows when I'm standing next to the car. I could probably find the slide for you.
So you didn't do a force analysis to determine how much force would be applying, assuming the contact with the right eye, did you?
That's correct.
And force analysis is what biomechanists do, correct? That's what a biomechanist does?
That is part of what we
Part
do.
of what they do.
So I lined up his anthropometry relative to the known height of the vehicle.
You attempted to line it up. That's one method, but another method is to apply Newton's second law like you did to the back of the head when he fell, correct?
Correct, if we had more information.
Mr. Alessi, why don't we break here?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. So jurors, your lunches are here. We'll see you in 15 minutes.
Please rise for the jury.